The world no longer needs borders to divide people. Subscriptions are enough. Once upon a time, civilizations conquered each other with armies. Today, they do it with a monthly plan. Old empires built roads and ports, new empires build habits. In Cairo, a young student opens Netflix on a second-hand phone. In Lagos, a gamer connects to Microsoft's servers to play FIFA through Game Pass. In Abu Dhabi, an engineer listens to a playlist of Western rap while driving down a highway cutting across the desert. All of this is connected by a single sound, the click of the play button. The Middle East and Africa were, until recently, a blank space on the map of the global digital economy. Today, they are the fastest-growing entertainment markets in the world. Over 1 billion people, mostly young, hungry for contact, emotion, and a world beyond their everyday life. Netflix, Game Pass, Spotify, Disney+, Amazon Prime, they enter these regions with the same grace with which European trading companies entered a century ago. Except now, instead of goods, they sell something far more valuable: time. Time is the new oil. Every minute spent in front of a screen has a market value. The longer you watch, play, or listen, the more data, trends, and consumer decisions can be extracted from you. The empire of entertainment doesn't need colonies, as long as it controls what you like. In Cape Town, a monthly Netflix plan costs as much as 4 loaves of bread. In Khartoum, as much as a day's work for a driver. In Riyadh, less than a cup of coffee in a shopping mall. A subscription is therefore more than entertainment. It is a ticket to a world that seems better, richer, more modern. A world in which life comes with subtitles and dubbing, and everything can be rewound when it gets too hard. Once, Western colonizers spoke of a mission civilizatrix, a civilizing mission. Today they talk about digital access. Then they offered education, now recommendations. Back then they brought textbooks and machines, today series, games, and playlists. In the age of global networks, conquest doesn't require force. It only requires internet access. In a world where people spend an average of 4 hours a day in front of a screen, control over what they watch becomes control over what they think. This is what 21st century colonialism looks like. Elegant, interactive, subscription-based. Netflix, Spotify, and Game Pass are not just tech companies. They are new cultural centers that act faster than states, more effectively than schools, and more emotionally than religions. Their product is not a film, music, or a game. Their product is a feeling of belonging. In Lagos, a teenager plays the same title as his peer in New York. In Amman, a student binges the same series as a girl in Berlin. In Nairobi, a taxi driver sings along to the same songs that play in commercials in London. Global entertainment has created a new language that doesn't need translation. An emoji, a chorus, an icon on a screen are enough. This is not an accident, it is a project. In 2018, Netflix announced that the Middle East and Africa were the fastest-growing territories of the future. A year later, Microsoft and Sony announced expansion of their gaming services in North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Spotify launched local versions in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria, introducing playlists tailored to Ramadan, weddings, and night drives through the desert. Global platforms discovered that cultural differences do not need to be erased. They can be monetized. The more different a region is, the more exotic its data. And the more exotic in data, the more valuable in analysis. In this way, local culture has become a raw material. Once spices were exported, now emotions are. At first glance, it looks like an innocent exchange. Someone provides entertainment, someone else pays a few dollars. But hidden in this transaction is an entire structure of dependency. The platform decides what you will see. The platform chooses your language. The platform calculates what you like before you even like it. This is what the new form of cultural colonialism looks like. It doesn't need coercion because it operates through pleasure. The young Arab and African generation grows up in a world where Western content is not so much an import as the norm. Series characters become life models, game heroes, symbols of success, and Spotify playlists, the emotional background of everyday life. Once colonizers brought language, Now they bring sound. In Cairo, children sing English choruses to songs they don't understand. In Abuja, young gamers compete in esports leagues with prize money paid in dollars. In Marrakesh, influencers record vlogs about what's worth watching at the weekend. Global entertainment has created a new form of identity, digital belonging. This is neither good nor bad. It's simply a fact. Just as in the past everyone wanted to own a car, today everyone wants to have an account. An account is status. An account is proof that you exist in the world that matters. In many parts of Africa and the Middle East, where not everyone has electricity, they still have mobile data. The smartphone has become a temple and a cinema, a radio and a church, a playground and an office. The new empire doesn't need embassies. It has data centers. It doesn't need ambassadors. It has influencers. It doesn't need armies. It has subscribers. Each of them is a brick in the wall of global entertainment that connects continents into a single psychological space. Colorful, comfortable, one click away. The Middle East and Africa have become not just a market but also a laboratory. Here, pricing models, language versions, local productions, and content restrictions are tested. Netflix invests in Arabic series, Microsoft in local esports, and Spotify in podcasts in Swahili and Arabic. At first glance, it's inclusivity. In practice, algorithmic assimilation. Because each platform has its own plan, each subscription is a micro-colony. Each account is a digital ambassador of a lifestyle that wasn't invented in Cairo, Lagos, or Tunis. In a world where every film has a global premiere and every game runs on the same servers, cultural diversity stops being a color and becomes a user category. The empire of entertainment is clever. It doesn't say it has a mission. It says it has an offer. It doesn't ask for obedience. It offers recommendations. It doesn't demand faith. It sends notifications. Everything works quietly, with a smile and the startup sound of an app. And so a new kind of power is born. The power of digital emotions. Whoever can hold your attention on a screen no longer needs borders or armies. It is enough that they can make you unable to stop watching. Today there's no need to conquer countries when you can conquer evenings. Because the true empire of the 21st century does not rule land. It rules time. Once, life took place in the souk. In the market, you could smell spices, hear laughter, shouting, prayers from the minaret, and music from the radio. Not only goods were traded there, but also stories. The merchant was the storyteller, the customer, the listener and gossip, the local version of media. Today, in many cities of the Middle East and Africa, the souks empty faster than the streets after dusk. Instead of the sound of haggling, you hear the hum of air conditioning and the loading screen of Netflix. The series has become the new bazaar. This is where emotions, morality, dreams, and aspirations meet. Where once fabrics were sold, stories are sold now. Except they are no longer told over tea, but served in 45-minute episodes with autoplay. Netflix doesn't need a muezzin to call people to a shared ritual. The intro sound and red logo are enough. In Cairo, a young student comes home from work and opens his phone to watch Money Heist. In Lagos, a girl from the outskirts is waiting for the next part of a Turkish drama. In Amman, a family gathers around a screen to follow The Crown, even though no one really knows who was actually Prime Minister of Britain in the 1970s. In Marrakesh, children recite lines from Korean series. And in Dubai, influencers analyze plot twists from Los Angeles. Global entertainment has replaced conversation, it has replaced community, it has replaced the culture of meeting. Ramadan soap operas that for decades brought families together in front of TV sets are giving way to thrillers from Spain and dramas from the US. The world has become accessible, but alien. Because global entertainment does not only deliver emotions, it teaches how to feel them. Scenes of love, conflict, rebellion, and revenge become universal. A viewer in Cairo reacts the same way as a viewer in Berlin. They cry the same way, laugh the same way, click next episode the same way. In the Arab and African worlds, stories have always been the heart of culture. Once passed on orally, then through poetry, now through streaming. Only the medium has changed. The meaning has remained the same. Stories are the currency that connects people. Except that now the exchange rate is set by the algorithm. Netflix and other platforms have taken over the role of the old storytellers. They decide which emotions are worth feeling, which values to show, which conflicts to make attractive. Once a story carried a moral, today it is carried by the end credits and the like this title option. Every series becomes a product, and every episode an attempt to capture attention. In Saudi Arabia, cinemas were still banned just a decade ago. Today, multiplexes are full, and Netflix is legally investing in local production. Women who could only watch films at home before now go out to the movies. But the freedom brought by entertainment comes in the shape of an app. Moral boundaries still exist. They're just written in code. Scenes that are too bold are cut out. Topics that are too political are quietly pushed down the recommendation lists. Emancipation becomes aesthetic. In Africa, subscriptions are a form of escape. In Lagos, Kinshasa, Addis Ababa, Netflix is a window onto a world that feels close but remains out of reach. A series about New York is like a dream. You can watch it, but you can't live in it. In regions where unemployment exceeds 30%, series have become a new version of hope. Each episode is an illusion of stability, clean streets, and a predictable tomorrow. That's why series in the Middle East and Africa work like psychological shelters. In a world of political uncertainty, economic chaos, and rising living costs, they offer ritual and order. Every episode ends in the same place, at the edge of curiosity. Every next one begins where reality stops. Netflix doesn't sell films. It sells calm. It sells forgetting. It sells an emotional placebo that lets you believe, for a moment, that the world is orderly and problems can be solved in 45 minutes. In this sense, streaming has taken over the function of the old souk. Except instead of merchants, we have algorithms. Instead of tales of travels and wars, we have plots about love and success. Instead of the smell of spices, the colors of an interface. Instead of the marketplace noise, the silence of a room lit by blue screen glow. Local productions like Al-Rawabi School for Girls from Jordan or Paranormal from Egypt show that even in a world dominated by the West, people are trying to tell their own stories. But these stories also pass through the filter of global aesthetics. Camera work, rhythm, dialogue, music. Everything has to be globally understandable. Authenticity remains, but in export version. In the cafes of Cairo, Tunis, and Casablanca, conversations about politics have been replaced by discussions about series. It's safer. It's easier to say that scene was powerful than this government is weak. The series becomes a valve for emotions that had nowhere to go before. In societies where criticizing power can cost you prison, analyzing a script becomes a form of resistance. In a region where taboos still exist, series have become a new space of freedom. In fiction, you can say more than in the news. In fiction, you can ask questions that are forbidden in public. And that's exactly why many governments closely monitor streaming platforms. Because they know that a well-told story can reshape consciousness more effectively than a sermon or manifesto. Series have replaced the souk but preserved its essence. Just as people once went to the market to hear what was new in the world, today they open a platform. It is the same need for contact, only in a new form. Once people stood among the smell of spices, today they sit among the smell of electronics. Once they listened to the merchant's voice, today, the narrators. Once they dreamed of travel, today, of the next season. What was once local and shared has become global and solitary. But paradoxically, it is exactly this solitude that drives the system. Because a person who is alone needs continuity. Needs the next episode, the next season, the next world where everything makes sense. And maybe that's why, in a world that has stopped believing in grand narratives, Netflix created its own. A narrative not about history, but about ritual. Not about society, but about the individual. Not about the future, but about the next episode. Because in an era when bazaars fall silent and cities fall asleep in front of screens, the series has become a new prayer for meaning. Once in Arab cafes, people played chess, checkers, and dominoes. Today they play FIFA, GTA, and Call of Duty. Where once you heard the rattle of pieces, today you hear the click of a controller. In a world where youth has become a global language, games are its alphabet. Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Epic Store, and Steam have become new gateways to modernity. They are no longer just entertainment. They are a new value system. For millions of young people in Africa and the Middle East, gaming is not a hobby, but a way to exist in a world that still gives them no place. The console is a passport, the controller, a visa, the subscription, a permit for temporary happiness. In Riyadh, Cairo, Lagos, and Tunis, dozens of small gaming salons are opening, often in dark alleys, lit by blue screen light and decorated with faded FIFA posters from past years. Inside, everything looks like a cross between a cyberpunk dream and the reality of poverty. 2 consoles, a table, a few plastic chairs, a fan, and a shared Game Pass account. But in these few square meters, something more than entertainment is happening. It is a space of freedom, community, and rivalry. Gaming has become, in these regions, a kind of new, everyday religion. It has rituals, a language, a community, and a promise. On Fridays after prayer, boys don't go to the market but to the cafe to play. On weekends, young men in Dubai meet not in malls, but in LAN centers. In Cairo and Casablanca at rush hour, hundreds of young people play online using phones paid off in installments by their parents. For them, virtual teams are a substitute for agency they lack in real life. Microsoft understands this better than anyone. Game Pass is not just a business model, it's a psychological invention. In regions where young people don't have stable jobs, access to a library of hundreds of games for the equivalent of $2 a month is a miracle of the subscription economy. It gives an illusion of wealth and choice. Just as Netflix offers the illusion of culture, Game Pass offers the illusion of power. In many Middle Eastern countries, the console is the most valuable item in the house after the TV. It's not a symbol of luxury. It's a symbol of participation. If you play, you exist. If you play online, you have a voice. In a world where there is often no work, no freedom of speech, and no stability, the game becomes a place where a person can be themselves. A player from Cairo can defeat a rival from Paris. A gamer from Lagos can create his own esports club. A boy from Tunis can comment on matches online and gain hundreds of followers. This is global emotional egalitarianism. Everyone is equal as long as they have a connection. But it's an illusion. Just as Europe once colonized the world through trade, today global corporations colonize youth through entertainment. Game Pass is not only access to games, it is Western values in their purest form. Competition, success, progress, individualism. Even in the virtual worlds of Africa and the Middle East, it's the West that writes the scripts. Everyone else plays extras. The most popular titles in the region are still the same: FIFA, GTA, Call of Duty, Fortnite, games about victory, survival, competition, and domination. Games that teach that the world is an arena where you must be better, faster, more precise. In places where life is full of uncertainty, these games teach a new stoicism, that you can always start again, that you can win even when everything collapses. But they also teach something else, that the world you control on the screen does not belong to you in reality. For many young men in Egypt, Sudan, Nigeria, or Saudi Arabia, gaming has become therapy, a way not to feel anger, frustration, and helplessness. Every win is a small act of revenge on a world that ignores them. Every loss is training in resilience. It's no coincidence that in regions with the highest unemployment, the number of active gamers is also rising. At the same time, games are creating a new social layer, a digital middle class. People who do not have much money, but do have fast internet, microtransactions, and dreams. A generation that learns English from games, geography from GTA maps, history from Call of Duty, and empathy from life is strange. Paradoxically, video games have become the largest educational system in the world. Microsoft, Sony, and EA know exactly how this mechanism works. In countries where you can't advertise alcohol, you can advertise adrenaline. In regions where it's not appropriate to talk openly about sexuality, you can show passion in game dialogue. In places where you can't question power, you can question reality in a sandbox. In West Africa, you increasingly hear that Game Pass is the new mosque of the new generation. It's not blasphemy, it's a diagnosis. Young people spend more time on servers than in temples, not because they have lost faith, but because they are looking for meaning where someone lets them speak, act, and win. In Arab countries, women gamers are still a taboo topic. In Saudi Arabia or Egypt, they play in secret, often under male nicknames. For them, the console is not a toy, but a portal to equality. In the virtual world, no one knows who you are, where you're from, what you're allowed to do. There you can be a commander, a sniper, a driver, a rebel. Freedom within Wi-Fi range. But this freedom has a price. Every hour in a game is an hour inside a system that both teaches and measures you. Your time, your decisions, your emotions become data. Game Pass is not only a gateway to games, it is a laboratory of human reactions. Microsoft analyses billions of behaviors to better understand how the desire for success, reward, and competition works. It's a global experiment on emotions. In gaming salons in Lagos, Nairobi, and Cairo, kids play on the same servers that connect gamers from Europe and America. Everyone is part of one network, but not everyone is equal. Although they play together, the profits flow in only one direction, to data centers, corporations, and Western banks. This is the new version of colonial economics, digital colonialism powered by emotion, not raw materials. And yet, in these same places, a new energy is being born. In Egypt, studios are being created that make games about local legends. In Nigeria, young programmers design their own worlds inspired by African myths. In Saudi Arabia, the government is investing in esports to show that the future can also belong to them. And although Game Pass is still a Western product, its users increasingly want to be not only players, but creators. Because real change begins when you stop playing by someone else's rules and start designing your own. Then the console stops being a tool. It becomes a microphone. In these regions, music has always been older than the word. Before there were borders, there was rhythm. Before alphabet and politics appeared, there were drums, flutes, songs, and desert echoes. Sound was prayer, message, escape, and memory. More history is recorded in the songs of the Bedouins than in chronicles. The singing of Nubians preserved memories of rivers that dried up long ago. In Sufi melodies, there pulsed what could not be said. Today, those same melodies flow through headphones. Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, Anghami. They all sound the same. Music that once was born in the rhythm of the heart and breath now adapts to the rhythm of the algorithm. Instead of the desert, it has a playlist. Instead of wind, an equalizer. For young Arabs and Africans, Spotify has become what the radio once was. A window onto the world, but also a mirror of the soul. One click is enough to go from Cairo to Seoul, from Khartoum to Los Angeles, from Dakar to London. Music no longer has a passport. It has an API. Once music was local, it had its own instruments, scale, and tone. Today it has metadata. They decide whether a track will land in recommendations or vanish in an ocean of sound. For the algorithm, there is no difference between a desert chant and rap from Detroit. The only thing that matters is whether you stay with it longer than 20 seconds. In Marrakesh, old musicians still play gnawa, mystical rituals connecting Africa with Islam. Their audience today is mostly tourists. But the young who play the same instruments now record in garages and upload tracks to Spotify. Old spirits meet new technology. Incense is replaced by microphones. The temple by the algorithm. In Lagos, Afrobeat is king. It is music that has combined protest, joy, and economics. Spotify in Nigeria is more than an app. It is a distribution system for dreams. Young artists like Burna Boy, Rima, or Thames have gone from local stages to global festivals thanks to streaming. Every click for them is a vote in a new cultural election. In the Middle East, the phenomenon looks different. In Saudi Arabia, where for decades music was regulated by religion, Spotify became a quiet revolution. Young Saudis create playlists mixing Western pop, Arabic trap, and Egyptian ballads. They listen in cars, offices, gyms, homes where music was recently still considered a sin. Sound has become a form of dissent, and headphones, a tool of freedom. In Egypt, streaming has turned the music hierarchy upside down. Artists like Wegs or Marwan Musa are creating a new genre, Arabic drill and trap that speak the language of the streets but move to the rhythm of TikTok. Spotify has become their producer, label, and manager all at once. They no longer need TV or record companies, they only need plays. In a world where the state controls the media, independence is counted in streams. Spotify understood that the key to the region's heart is not music itself, but emotion. So it launched local playlists, Arab X, Khaliji Mix, Afro Mood, Desert Vibes, Sufi Beats. Each one works like a modern music souk. Thousands of voices, hundreds of cultures, one interface. In theory, that's diversity. In practice, global standardization of sound. Music that is meant to be discovered globally has to sound familiar. That's why traditional instruments are mixed with trap beats. That's why local vocals are recorded in autotune. That's why songs are getting shorter. The world no longer listens to whole tracks. The world listens to snippets, hooks, only to what can be shared. This is the biggest change in the history of music. Once a song was testimony. Today it is a message. Once people listened to the melody, today they listen to themselves in the melody. Spotify teaches people that music should be the backdrop to their emotions, not the other way around. Every user gets their own sound world, tailored like a suit by artificial intelligence. It's no longer radio. It's a personal emotional landscape. In Dakar, a bus driver listens to the Afro Morning Drive playlist. In Jerusalem, a student studies to focus beats. In Tunis, a girl cries to sad Arabic songs. Everyone has their own life soundtrack. Spotify has turned the world into a film in which everyone is both hero and extra. But this personalization has a dark side. When everyone has their own music, the community of sound disappears. There's no longer one song that the whole city knows, no chorus that unites the streets, no anthem of a generation, only a million micro-emotions. The world listens together but feels alone.